It's called Doubting a Bulletproof Vest. Firsts are one of a kind, once in a lifetime experiences, one in a million. The first time I put pen to paper, I could literally feel wings grow on my back as my feet lifted off the ground. I was free. The first time I wrote a poem, every single line rhymed. I was 7. My teacher told me there were more patterns to be learned, and I just said, I wrote a poem. When she gave us a book filled with poems and had us read them over the course of the year, I read them all in one night, and then wrote more of my own. Even at the age of 7, I knew my calling. I just didn't know that I knew it yet. The first time I started hiding it, I was 12 years old. I went from writing about puppies and how cool my mom was to feeling alone and not knowing who I was. I wasn't listening to what I loved the most. There's a reason it's called writing, not wronging. I was longing for answers I didn't yet have and couldn't yet see my writing was right. I always felt like it was wrong. It could never be as strong as it should be, but it was, because it was mine. I was blind, but I know that now. The first time I threw it all away, I was 13. 13-year-old Kim couldn't see the beauty she had. She wrote about her body, then threw it away. She wrote about divorce, then burned each page, watching the ashes rise, thinking maybe they would end up somewhere better than in her possession. Everything she had seemed to fall apart, so why keep anything? She wrote about boys and crushes and friends, but never shared a word and destroyed them again. The first time I truly gave up, I was 13 years old. We had 15 minutes to write in our daybook in English class every day. I pretended like I knew nothing about writing. I wrote poems where every line rhymed. My teacher said there are more patterns to learn, but I just replied with, well, I wrote a poem. My wings were clipped long ago. I hadn't left the ground in a long time. It's not that I was grounded, rather buried in feelings and emotions that I carried in my heart for years. My tears were exiled from my eyes. Anger was shunned for existing. Sadness was simply ignored. There is no metaphor worthy for that time. I was just sad. The first time I let myself write again, I was 15 years old. I wrote about my body, then threw it away. I wrote about my father, then ripped every bit. I wrote about boys and girls and crushes and friends. I wrote 2 boys and girls and crushes and friends, but still, I threw every piece away, burned, torn, dumped, defaced. Everything was always unworthy. Every journal became a new journey whose fate was already sealed. The lifespan of Kim's journal was always so short. There seemed to be no cure for the disease that killed my confidence. Every piece pleaded for salvation, each prayer always ignored. Each time my character and creativity was bound to be killed, regardless of how these words were bound, for my writing to be found was impossible. The first time I met someone who made me love myself again, I was 16 years old. I used to sit in English class thinking to myself, damn, I want to write like her, but she made me realize I just wanted to write like me. I wanted to write. I started to write again. I'm writing again. The first time I shared a poem with anyone, it was to a bunch of strangers. But she was sitting right there in front of me when my lips hesitated to move the right way, and I felt my voice hold back with uncertainty. One glance ahead reminded me of how far I'd come. The first time I realized how lucky I am is right now. Lucky as in me being me. Lucky to have the people I do. Lucky to see life the way I see it. Lucky to have found the answer I wanted when I was 12. Lucky to be writing. Lucky to be sharing, to be growing, knowing that I am worthy. A good friend of mine asked me a few days ago if I considered myself a poet. I smiled an uncomfortable smile and said I wasn't good enough yet to consider myself one. The first time I wrote in this journal was to make one thing very clear. I'm a poet, and I'm a damn good poet. My words can show that I know it to be true. I write to ignite the spark I've always had. Too bad 12-year-old Kim didn't see it, but I do now. Yes, I know now that I am me, and I fucking love me. I'll write my heart out and never rein it in. I'll share each word and never back down. I'll fill every page with whatever comes out. I will be the poet I've always wanted to be. My words are bulletproof and will never be shot down again.